Hi there, same old Michael from Fujifilm, but this is a new year. And for the first Workbench episode of 2023, instead of talking about hardware and gear and stuff, I thought I'd maybe throw a suggestion to you on how to jazz up your lighting and create mood in your scenes. So to do that, let's go on location. Okay, I'm actually on location right now of one of our own Fujifilm productions that we're doing to demonstrate the capabilities of a new super zoom cinema lens. But what you're seeing behind me is real cool movie magic at work. So first of all, you'll notice the space is huge. I'm indoors. Okay, we are inside an old blimp hangar that was built in 1942. And in fact, this blimp hangar has been not used for blimps for many, many years, but it is a favorite location for many, many commercials and movies and TV shows. I guarantee you've seen this place a million times. Now, what I wanted to point out is the interesting backlight. Okay, so way off in the distance there is a crane, sort of basically a lift that is used in many utility situations, and there are some very big high-powered lights that are up there. One of them has been gelled a very, very cold blue color, and you notice it definitely feels like moonlight. Okay, and to enhance that feeling of moonlight is you need some particles in the air. If you want to see backlight, what you need is particles in the air. So it could be water mist like rain, it could be sprinklers or something, but the easiest way to do it for cinema and photography is to use a fog machine or something called a hazer. And that's what you see floating up here in the space up above. Is way in the back, there's some very large professional fog machines that are pumping out this very, very fine mist that hangs in the air. And that's also important, is you want to make sure there's no air conditioning or fans that are going to move that around, because you want it to float. So that mist allows you to see the shafts of light coming from the back, and that's very important for that light to read. Now, like I said, those lights have been gelled a nice cold blue, but we would set the color temperature on the camera to something like, say, 4,500 Kelvin, or maybe even really accentuate the blueness and go to like 3,200 Kelvin, which is way the opposite end of the color temperature scale from what that light is gelled to. But if you look over this shoulder and you look at those windows way off in the back wall, you'll see that the color from those windows is actually a warmish tint. The lights that are outside those windows have been gelled to be slightly warmer. So this is a very, very great technique to use, not just in video and cinema, but in stills too. It's called using complementary colors. Yellow and blue are sort of at the opposite end of the color spectrum in terms of the six color wheel. And this is something that makes things look really, really interesting to our eye. The other thing that really helps is to have a reflective surface with backlight. So this space has a giant, giant concrete slab, and it's been worn very, very smooth over the years. So there's a natural reflectivity to that concrete surface, which is helping bring that backlight to your eyes. To enhance that, and this is something that's used all the time in movies when there's a street scene out in a city or something like that, is you add some water. You spray the surface down, add some water, and that will add a lot of specularity to that reflection of the backlight. Of course, big giant spaces are spacious, so we were using the fog haze there to accentuate the lighting, right? But you can use fog and haze to also change the perception of what a room feels like. So if you look at this still frame from a small movie that I did, here I used some haze to actually make the room seem a little bit larger than it was. So this scene took place in a comedy club, and we only had room for about 20 extras in the room instead of like 100 that you would find in a real comedy club. So I added some haze to basically obscure the background a little bit so that the center of attention stayed the performer on stage instead of the audience members in the back. Also, it served to lift the contrast a little bit in the deep background. Instead of everything going just to pure black, with just having one backlight, we could basically make things feel a little more airy in that room. So we're talking about cinematic type purposes and like commercial environments, but can you do this for portraiture and wedding? Of course, why not? So all you need to do is, when you have a situation that can use some blurring out of the background, instead of just necessarily throwing it out of focus, if it's something that's distracting or you want to make it seem more interesting, is bring a fog machine on location with you and throw some fog 15, 20 feet away from the subject. Let it fill up into the air and then just let it hang there for a minute. Again, outdoors this can be tricky because you need a still day and you might need a big fog machine. But what about inside if you're doing portraits? Well, this is especially helpful not so much in the studio, but if you're doing environmental portraits that maybe have windows or in a long receding hallway. And again, you can have shafts of light with a little bit of haze. And again, you only need a little bit of haze can help bring out some really cool lighting. Where do you get foggers and haze machines? Well, quite frankly, the best place to start is anywhere that sells equipment for disc jockeys, because music clubs and concert venues use fog machines all the time, and you do not have to spend a lot of money. You can get one for $50 or even less, especially around Halloween time. These things go on sale everywhere. Also, always be 100% certain to use a fluid that is approved by the manufacturer of that machine. Do not just throw any old liquid into that reservoir. And the last thing I want to say is, again, safety first. If you are using fog in a small environment, you might want to ask the people involved to make sure nobody has any kind of breathing conditions, because some people can be sensitive to the mist that the fog machine puts out. Hey, thanks for joining me. See you next time.